Hey there, welcome to another on-location class here in Stone Lake, Wisconsin. Debbie's here to help me walk through a class of training end range flexion extension for both your wrists and your knee joints. We're going to be moving a little quicker, so a nice quick input for those joints. Just a note that if any of these positions feel really off limits for you, you probably want to be working a little bit more on rotation or lateral medial flexion for your wrists before diving into this end range work. That said, all you're going to need for this class is going to be some good work surface on the ground with a nice cushiony mat or towel, whatever you've got, and then also probably some sort of bunched up object. So yoga block works well. We're working with just a balled up shirt here, and that works also. All right, so let's go ahead and start by warming up your knee rotation. Just set your right foot out in front of you, and if you'd like to lean back against something, you totally can. Grab onto your thigh to make sure that that area stays still. Toes pull up into gas pedal up. Heel gets a little heavy into the ground. And then you're ready to start exploring tibial rotation. How much can you turn your shin out to the side and in towards your midline, moving smoothly and slowly so you truly find a complete stop in each direction. And those hands on your thigh might be giving you some feedback of what muscles in the back of your thigh are responsible for creating that rotation. The more you can tune into that, the more rotation you'll probably be able to unlock. Good, very nice. Doing your best to keep those toes pulled up to your kneecap so your ankle is just in a fixed position and moving along with your shin for 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good. Go ahead, let that leg be and work on the other side. Hands on thigh. Heel digs into the ground. Toes pull up and then begin finding a rotation here. Debbie's doing a great job finding complete stops. It can be kind of a little bit of a confusing moment for your body if you become really practiced with this motion and just bounce back and forth in the range that feels comfortable. What you want to do instead is let each rep feel like a brand new rep, like the first time you've ever done this exercise. And that's where you might have the possibility of unlocking a little bit more external rotation or a little bit more internal rotation. Good. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let that side go. Okay, go back to your right side. And we're now going to invite in a little bit of knee flexion and extension. That's your knee bending and straightening. And a little bit of a brain teaser here for you. Your heel is going to stay on the ground, but you're going to be sliding it, which means you can't make it very heavy on the ground. Now you're going to have to be able to control that rotation while your heel is smoothly sliding on the ground. Okay, so start where you did with the tibial rotation before. Good call. Put your hands on the ground to really help support your body because you'll feel that this is a full body activity, all right? So begin by rotating your shin outward as much as you can, making sure your thigh doesn't fall out to the side. Yep, keep that thigh still. Turn on your abs so your body is really nice and strong. And then holding that externally rotated shin, start to straighten your leg out, keeping the heel contact, but smoothly sliding. If you can get all the way straight, that works, but then internally rotate, making sure your thigh doesn't come along, and begin bending that knee back, okay? Yeah, doing your best to not bunch up the mat as you pull it back. Externally rotate, straighten out the leg. This time, let's not lock the knee, okay? Just go about 10% shy. Pause there so you still have some rotation left in your shin. Internally rotate, might be small, and then add more internal rotation as you bend. Good, final rep. Externally rotate. Smoothly extend that leg, extend that knee to almost straight but not locking. And then internally rotate. Bend that knee back and add more internal rotation. Good, take a pause here and just relax. Notice how your abs and your arms were having to work to help you. We're going to do that same rotation in the other direction on this knee. So set up again. Internally rotate fully and make sure your thigh bone is just going to be moving down and up, not falling side to side. And then begin straightening that leg out. When you're almost locked but not all the way, externally rotate the shin and ask for more external rotation as you bend. Good. Keep going, working at your own pace. And this time, just see if you can eke out a little bit more rotation, but also a little bit more flexion. That is, can you bring your heel closer to your butt before you internally rotate? Final rep, moving at cars speed, 1 mile per hour. Not letting that thigh follow along is really tough, doing great. Heel to butt squeeze and relax, okay? As we go over to the other side, really bending your knee is where you're gonna unlock some very juicy cramps for your hamstring. So if you're feeling that, you're working in the right place. All right, so set up on your left leg now. Knee starts at that same angle that we had before. Fully externally rotate your shin. And yeah, set up your upper body to feel really stable because your hip and abs are gonna become part of this motion. And then keeping that externally rotated shin, start to straighten your leg out, trying your best to keep your heel right on the mat. When you're almost locked but not all the way, pause and internally rotate. And then keep adding internal rotation as you pull your heel back to your butt, trying to bend your knee as much as you can, biting down on the back of your knee. And then externally rotate. Oh yeah. And start to straighten your leg out, doing your best to hold on to all that external rotation. This is hard, full body work. Internally rotate. Start to bend it back, heel to butt. Good. Can you bring that heel any closer to your butt before externally rotating? Final rep. This time, double down on your upper body, staying strong as you straighten. Good. Controlling that pressure on the ground. Internally rotate, and then pull your heel to your butt. All the way working until you get a complete stop in your bend. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Take a quick rest here before we work on the other direction of rotation. Okay, if the ground feels far away, sometimes I'll put a block under one or both hands just to make sure my upper body feels super, super stable. All right, and let's go ahead and start out with that bent knee. Body is braced. Internally rotate your shin, and then hold on to that internal rotation as you begin to straighten your leg. Heel just gently sliding on the ground. And then thigh stays still as you externally rotate your shin. Great, Debbie. Bend that knee and keep adding external rotation as you do. Awesome job. Keep going. 2 more reps in this direction. If you feel like you could move slower and smoother, then you probably should move a little slower and smoother. If you're moving as slowly and smoothly as you can, keep going there and see if you can keep smoothing out the motion, keep making the ask of your body even more clear, and remembering that the brace in the non-moving parts of your body is super, super important and helpful to learn control in a new area. Heel to butt, heel to butt, heel to butt, and relax. Okay, good. So all that intense warming up will actually really help us a little later on when we begin to work right at that end range of flexion and extension. All right, now we're gonna move into just a primer warm-up motion for the wrist. We're gonna do those wrist cars, and I want you to pick any upright body position that feels good for you. So that could be seated on the ground, seated on a chair, standing, or tall kneeling like Debbie's showing here. And then place your elbows into a 90-degree angle on each side. And we want to give your arms just a little bit of a job so that they stay still. So that might feel accessible to squeeze in towards your body. That might feel strong. If that doesn't feel strong, that's fine. You could instead be focusing on reaching elbows down to the ground, okay? Whatever direction, you just want to make sure it feels active and a complete stop. So nothing is moving up here. Then keep that active effort. Make 2 fists, and let's go ahead and turn those fists kind of to face each other. And we're going to start this motion with knuckles moving down towards the ground, then knuckles moving out to the side, keeping your elbows still the whole time, then knuckles up to the ceiling, keeping those fists, and then finally knuckles in towards your belly button, again, keeping those fists strong, and keep moving in this direction. For the rest of this chunk of time, moving at your pace and really touching in on how much motion is available at your wrist. Don't be too worried about if you have enough or what angle feels strong or not strong. We just need to start somewhere, and that's what we're doing here. Wherever you might be, freeze and start going the other way. And just make sure that your forearms are staying completely still in space. Debbie's again doing a really nice job of that, but sometimes your forearms like to turn. So you want to make sure those forearms are staying stock still, and the only motion in your body is right at those wrist joints. Good. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Very nice. Now come on over onto your hands and knees. Go ahead, double up that mat if you need to, or throw a towel under your knees. Make sure that the kneeling part of this position is not a distraction. And then we're gonna go hunting for some lines of tension in your wrists. So first of all, turn your fingers out just a little bit. Oh, not too much, just a little bit. Good. Bend your elbows just a little bit. And I want you to take a moment and imagine you're squeezing a softball, or maybe squeezing a small soccer ball, small basketball, so you can really find all those muscles in your palm into your wrist. And then relax that and let your elbows bend a little bit. And see if you can find a specific stretch in your forearms, on that bottom part of your forearms, especially where those muscles meet your elbows, okay? You might find that after you bend your elbow, you need to actually lean forward a little bit to get more wrist flexion in order to find that stretch. Okay, so there's maybe some tension there to find. Alternatively, you might find that by straightening your elbow, that's where you get the line of stretch. For now, I want you to super slowly keep moving. Elbow can bend, wrist can rock forward and back. Just make sure that you're micro adjusting and you're gradually honing in on the juiciest line of tension that you can find. The reality is there's probably several lines of tension that feel like a stretch, and you just need to pick one for today. Good. Okay. Once you've found it, I want you to just hold here for 15 seconds, take some deep breaths, and clearly feel those lines of tension on both wrists, because we're gonna need to come back here. And let that go, okay? Go ahead, just sit back or come up to tall kneeling. We're gonna give those wrists a quick break. All right, so now to stretch the other side of your wrist joint, you're gonna set up and make sure here that you're not in quadruped, but that your hands are a little bit more by your sides, and you're gonna turn your palms up to the ceiling. So the tops of your hands are on the ground, and definitely start with an elbow bend. So you have lots of slack in the system, okay? And Debbie's able to get here with her hands out in front of you. I'll be honest that I usually need to work right next to my knees because my tops of my wrists are quite tight. All right, so find that spot that doesn't feel too intense to start. And then take a moment here to stretch your fingers apart, almost like you're trying to push all of your fingernails into the ground. And then relax any effort you were making and start hunting for stretches on the top side of your forearms. Again, your two main variables are how much your wrists are bending, how much your elbows are bending. Yeah, so play with it. Take the rest of this minute to move slowly so that your wrist feels safe, but play with it a little bit. Feel what, or find what feels good, all right? Really look for those lines of tension that are calling out for a little bit of work, a little bit of stretch. Start making those motions a little smaller as you tune in and hone in on the line that you're going to want to work on a little bit later in class. Because again, there are probably several that you could go after, and we just want to pick out the most prominent one. All right, final 15 seconds, come to a stop wherever that line of tension presents itself, and take a couple deep breath cycles to really zoom in on this line of tension so that you can find it again at the end of class. 3, 2, 1, and relax. All right, let those wrists go. Come back into a seated position. And here's where we're going to be working on the knees in their end range extension ability. All right, so again, you could set up against a wall or a chair if it feels like just too much to keep your body upright here. But we want to start again with the right leg out in front of you, and your left leg can be in any old position. You might find that you want a little prop underneath your knee or underneath your thigh, but again, we want to be able to focus on the right leg, okay? So to start here, place your hands behind the back of your knee, stack them up so that they create a little bit of a height, good, and then start pushing the back of your knee into your hands until you're able to elevate your heel off the ground. Okay, so you can maybe see here that Debbie gets about a 1/2 inch of lift. That's ideal. If it was much more than that, then we'd probably want to move the hands a little wider and find right that end range extension where you only get a 1/2 inch of lift. If on the other hand, she wasn't able to lift her heel, then we would want to put a prop under there, and we might do that on the left side for her. Okay, and relax that heel down. Take a breath. Do one more. You're going to start pushing the back of your knee into your hands until your heel comes off the ground. Maybe feeling some clear contraction on the top of the thigh and noticing that that contraction pulls your kneecap up your leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, and slowly melt it down. Okay, good. Go ahead and move over to the other leg. Good. Okay, so if on this side you needed a little prop under there, it would look just like this, either a yoga block or a balled up shirt, what have you. And then again, start slowly, but start pressing the back of your knee joint into that prop until you get a hover with your heel. And really the motion that I'm describing is so that you can find the contraction sensation. I always joke that I wish I could just download that sensation to your body, but the reality is I need to give you movement cues. So we're going to use that. Go ahead and rest your heel back down. Take a breath. Maybe notice how your kneecap moved back when you relaxed your quad. And then one more rep to prime this up. Body stays still as your leg begins to straighten and your heel comes away from the ground. Can you slide that kneecap up any more? Can you find any more contraction in your quads? Can you get any more height underneath your heel for 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Yes. Okay. Take that moment. Come back to the right side. We're going to layer onto this. Good. Okay. So you're going to want to start with whatever propping you needed on that right leg to get your heel off, whether that's just your hands or a block or a shirt. And then begin by not actually actively straightening your leg, but by passively leaning your belly button towards your toes. So that should allow you to get a little more stretch in your hamstring. And it might feel like you're trying to actually lift your tail feathers to get that stretch right in your hamstring. Another quick note is that you'll see Debbie's knee is not completely locked. We don't want to be working only on the tendons on the back of the knee. We actually want to find that stretch in the muscle of your thigh. Yeah, on the back of your thigh, your hamstring muscle. Okay, once you feel like, all right, I have a nice strong stretch there, begin asking that leg to straighten. Back of knee pushes into your hands. The heel begins to come away from the ground, maybe. And now the real work here is going to be trying to connect your thigh to your belly and your belly to your thigh so that as you straighten your arms and push the ground away, your leg comes up for 5, 4, 3, 2, and slowly melt down. Take a moment to find that stretch again. This is a very challenging drill. Debbie has done this quite a bit, so she makes it look not so hard. Because she has some reps under her belt. But if this is brand new for you, it might be real weird. You might be cramping through here. So just give yourself that moment to breathe, set up, and really go slow as we set this up. So first, start to straighten your kneecap, straightening your leg. Then try to pull your belly button towards your knee more actively, connecting thigh to belly and belly to thigh. And then finally push the ground away and hold that leg off of your hands if possible. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Yes, good work. Okay, and switch over to the other side. So as you're changing sides, we started by contracting just the kneecap, and then the goal here on this progression is that we're now filling in the rest of this flow of tissue. So it should feel like this whole line is working hard for you. All right. Now I find that if you have a prop underneath your knee, it's really nice to put your hands on that prop, and that's what you're going to push into the ground. All right. So set up on this left side, setting up your prop that you might need behind your knee or just your hands. And then find that stretch in your hamstrings by reaching your belly button forward, really hunting for your stretch. And then without letting your back move, start to straighten your leg out. When your kneecap is pulled up your thigh, feel the contraction of belly and thigh trying to reach for each other. So your foot's not off the ground yet, you're just feeling that hip flexor contract. And then keep that rock solid as you push the floor away and bring the leg with you. Hold it. 5, 4, super hard work. 3, 2, and slowly melt it down. Awesome. As you find this stretch, I just want to comment on that little shake that you were seeing. That's actually a really good sign, because that means this is a position that Debbie's body is not so clear with, and so the signal that her brain is sending gets garbled and starts to shake the muscle a little bit. So on this second rep, my only cue to her would be try to smooth out the contraction to hold it even more still. All right, so find that stretch, pull your kneecap up your thigh, make your thigh to belly connection feel strong, and then keep that connection as you push the floor away and bring the leg with you, really contracting that thigh, contracting that belly as strong as you can. 3, 2, hold that tension, super slowly lower it down. Yes, great job. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let those go and move back to our wrists. So come back into your quadruped position, and this time you're going to go palms on the ground, and we're going to find a line of tension. I'm guessing it'll be close to what you found before, but let's just warm up. One of my favorite ways to really zoom in on the wrist. As you feel your hands on the ground, imagine a circle that's right around the bottom of your palm, the side of your palm, your kind of the bottoms of your knuckles, the pads of your palms, and all the way to the base of your thumb. So there's a circle there, okay? Now start feeling that circle by gradually rocking your body around, keeping your elbows roughly straight, and see if you can create pressure in exactly that circle, moving in both directions so you start to get more and more clear about this shape. And if it's feeling good, you're in control of adding more intensity by putting more body weight forward over your fingers, but just don't push it. Just find that level that feels strong and intense, but not scary and like your body is putting on the brakes. Finding that circle, gradually make that circle smaller and smaller so that someone outside couldn't see the motion, but you're just starting to create the pressure change in that circular direction, going back and forth. Another 15 seconds. I'm deliberately being a little free form here because I really want you to go by feel, go at the pace that your body is able to control. Good. Okay, now slowly settle into a line of stretch. Again, hunting for it somewhere in the back of your forearms, bottom of your forearms. And then hold here. Begin asking your fingertips to get heavier. Once that feels heavy, begin asking the palms to like grip that softball tighter. Thumbs, pinky fingers, and all the ones in between. And then finally, imagine that you're actually trying to push the ground away with your wrists to see if you can get any more contraction out of those forearms. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and super smoothly melt away that tension and sit back, okay? Debbie can just come up to tall kneeling if that feels all right. Yeah, sure. And then just, this is gonna be a little rest motion for your wrists. I love this one. Palms together, link your fingers, and then keep your palms together and just gently see what kind of rotational action you can find in your wrists. No need to go at that slow car's pace. We're just moving the wrist generally through their range of motion. I was actually trying to think of what the technical name for this motion would be, and I won't even bore you with what I came up with because I don't think there is a clear name for it. So I decided we're going to call this wrist butter. And just some butter for your wrists. Okay, make sure you go in the other direction as well. Apparently the neighborhood frog agrees with whatever I'm saying. That's pretty good. Okay, a few more and back and forth. And this is a really nice one to file away for keeping your wrists moving throughout the day. All right, and then let's come back into a stretch now for the other side of your wrist. So palms up to the sky. This again might be next to your knees or it might be a little bit out in front of you. Just depends on how much bend you have available here in your wrists. You can start with a bend in your elbow, but then begin to ask those elbows to straighten. Okay, and find maybe some rotation in your shoulders that helps you hone in on the line of tension that feels most in need of some help here today. Okay, so a little bit of rotation back and forth. It might be so small that I couldn't see it, but you can feel it. Okay. Now hone in on that line that you're going to work on. Begin asking your fingertips to get heavier into the ground. Once your fingers register, ask the knuckles to get heavier into the ground also. And then finally, don't let anything move, but imagine that you were doing a plank and all of your upper body weight was resting in this position. So you're asking for even more contraction out of these tissues, holding this PAILs contraction for 5, 4, 3, great job not moving, 2, super smoothly turn down the volume on that contraction, bend your elbows, go ahead, come out of it, and let's get a little bit more wrist butter. Okay, so just palms together, fingers interlaced, and just some motion back and forth. I like to do like 10 in one way, and then 10 in the other way, but again, it's got to be by feel. All right. Okay, so final motion for our knees. You're going to come down into quadruped, but we're going to be working from the forearm so your wrists get a little break. And the key here is that your knees feel very supported. So do throw something underneath your kneecaps if you're feeling a little touchy there. And then start by seeing how much are your knees happy with bending here. Maybe you're going to sit your hips all the way back to your heels. But if you have a little limit in flexion, which Debbie does on this left side, you're just going to go slow and find how much flexion you have available there. Okay? Maybe rock forward and back a couple times just to give your body a chance to really give you as much of that flexion as you can. All right, so before we rock back for the final time, make sure the tops of your feet are long and your toes are pointed behind you. And then sit your hips back as far as you can. Okay, and hold this position here for a moment. Now slowly start to try to curl just your toenails away from the ground, and then try to straighten out your ankles even more, and then commit to not letting your pelvis move forward as you try to lift your feet off the ground and feel the backs of your knees, backs of your thighs, backs of your calves working hard. How much can you pull heel to butt here? 5, 4, 3, 2, and slowly relax those down. Let your hips rock forward to get a little break. We're going to do that 2 more reps. So we're going to find end range, find that contraction on the back of the knee, and then use that to hold end range flexion. Okay? And I'm not sure if you can see from this camera angle, but Debbie has way more on her right side than her left side, and that might be the case for you as well. So just let that be what it is. And again, we want to find your end range on each side. All right, so ankles are straight and flat on the ground. Sit your hips back into as much knee flexion as is available. And then before you let anything move, ask your toes to curl, so the bottoms of your feet turn on. And then ask your ankles to straighten so you feel your calves turn on. And then finally, ask your shins to come away from the ground so your thighs turn on. And if you need to, you could rock forward until both legs are fully off the ground and you're holding a hover. You're holding a maximum effort contraction. All the tissues from your hip down to your knee, ankle, and bottom of your feet for 3, 2, 1, and slowly relax, okay? Rock out of it if you need to. We have our final rep. Good. Okay, and for our last one here, we're going to use a little imagery to see if we can get a little bit more out. So set up the same way that you did. Hips are back, ankles are straight. But now in a moment, you're going to imagine that there's a little fire underneath your feet. You're going to try to lift your toes as much as you can. Okay, so curl those toes first. Then straighten those ankles out, really lengthening into like a pointed position. Then without letting anything move yet, feel the contraction turn on in the back of your knees and back of your thighs. And then if you need to, rock your body slightly forward until both shins and ankles are off the ground. Really hold as much as you can. And here I'm lighting a fire under your toes. What can you do to lift your feet higher away from those coals without letting your body pitch forward? Doing great. 5, 4, invite those hamstring cramps for 3, 2, just a little bit more, 1, and slowly melt it down. Suddenly there's no fire and you're safe. Okay, great. So go ahead, come back into a seated position to finish up. And again, that might be pretty spicy on the fronts of your knees, so you can give your kneecaps a little love here. All right, so we're gonna finish up with a retest of our wrist car. And I want you to start seated with both legs out in front of you and take your knees into a near locked position, but make sure there's still a little bend going on. And then begin reaching your belly button towards your toes, trying to keep that same amount of knee extension so that you're really opening up a stretch on both sides. Okay, and you can start to walk your hands forward to find that maximum stretch here that's possible. Okay. And now imagine that there's a piece of paper in the front of each hip and you're trying to squeeze that piece of paper with your belly and with your thigh connection. And then set your elbows right on the sides of your legs, wherever they might land comfortably. And really try to engage elbow into thigh. So you feel nice and strong here. Make 2 fists. Make sure they're clear of your shins, all right? And now it should feel pretty active in your whole body as we just begin moving those wrists. Knuckles towards each other. Knuckles towards the ground, knuckles away, and then knuckles towards your biceps. Good, and keep going in this direction. Debbie's doing a great job of keeping the elbow joints still, keeping the whole upper body still, just moving the wrists, seeing if you can eke out any more contractibility on any part of your wrist. Freeze wherever you are and go the other way. Breathing, even as your body stays strong in this active position. 10 more seconds, you got this. 3, 2, 1, and relax it. Awesome work, all right? Go ahead and let us know how those inputs felt. Let us know if there's any adjustments that you might be feeling that you need. Because a lot of these positions are very tissue and body specific. We'd love to work through those specifics with you. Have a great one.